So now, as I introduce Myra and Joanna, please mute yourselves and turn off your video, and we will spotlight both of them. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat. So Myra Jolivet created Emmy award-winning special reports and told stories of true crime during her years in television news. But traditional mysteries motivated her to write the Sarah Doucette Jean Louis series. Like Myra, Sarah is a San Francisco Bay Area native with mystical Louisiana Creole roots. She leans into Louisiana spiritualism to help her solve crimes. Sarah's story is in the UC Berkeley Bancroft Library and the District of Columbia Public Library. And Myra is currently working on a new Creole sleuth and the beginning of a new series. Exciting. Joanna Vander is an author and illustrator. As a teenager, she drew charcoal portraits and wrote mysteries. Now she uses Copic markers, did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
To illustrate motorcycles and graphic novels. Joanna's short mysteries have been published in a variety of mystery anthologies, and her motorcycle illustrations have been purchased worldwide. Joanna draws upon her 13 years experience working in the prosecutor's office and 10 years working in the office of police complaint commissioner for inspiration for her thriller novels. She is the VP of membership for Sisters in Crime, Canada West?
Yes.
Okay. And Spy Girls, the third in her Jade and Sage series, released in 2024. Joanna's novels, art, and podcast can be found at joannavandervlugt.com. Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, it's so great to visit with you for the second time because we do a preparation visit before meet the author, and this is the first time that I'll be saying this because your writing journey began in a unique way. Your story was very different, and I think we called it one book inspiration. So it's about your one book inspiration that set you off on the path of writing. Oh, you're muted.
There we go. You can hear me now? Okay. Yes, as a child, I hated to read. And I was thinking of this event tonight, and I was thinking that if my 7-year-old self knew I would be reading a paragraph, I'd probably choke on my bubble gum, okay? My mom got to a point, what she would do is she would make me read for 30 minutes before I went to school, and I'd have to read out loud. And during that time, there was the A group of readers in whatever grade it was, grade 2, grade 3, and there was the B group of readers. And I was in the B group of readers, and I so much wanted to be in the A group of readers, okay? And then I think my mom was at her wit's end because she said to my older sister, Linda, please find her a book. I remember that, she will like. And we went to the library, and Linda pulled out a bunch of children's books. And it was Enid Blyton. She's a UK author, and these books were thick, remember? And just Enid Blyton, she wrote about these 4 or 5 children, like these kids who went on adventures. And I was hooked, 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 hooked. And I think my mother was just like, because I'd be sitting there and I was reading. It wasn't a chore. It was now enjoyment.
You can enjoy it. And see, that's so cool. That's so different. Usually everyone says, oh, I was a voracious reader and done it. And when you told me I hated reading, I was like, well, this is pretty interesting. The other thing that's fascinating, and I love seeing it in your book, I'll try to hold it up, but the fact that your illustrations are so unique. I don't know if this is going to show well on my camera, but
Yeah.
they look so good. The way it's like they look like they're moving when they're standing still. So, what is it like being able to put your vision and your ideas down on the page? You know, you don't have to interpret it to have someone interpret it for you.
Well, it was weird because I didn't create art for like about 30 years. You know, I did it as a teenager. It was the charcoal pencils. And then, like told my friend Carol Ann, I said, I swear it was in college in Economics 101 that killed any creativity I had. Okay. And it was literally about 30 years later, talking with Carol Ann, because she and I both used to work at the prosecutor's office, that she had said to me, get a little note art book. Just start to draw whatever you want, and you don't have to show anybody. And that I started to do that again. And so then I took like I took a 10-year break from writing. And so it just kind of merged the writing and the art. And it was one day I was on Instagram and I was just scrolling through all these different, like uh, Royal Enfield motorcycles. And I saw this girl on this bike. And I looked at her, and that's the image she showed up. And I just thought, that's Jade. That's my heroine. That's
Ah,
Jade. I have to illustrate this. So I messaged her and I said, please, and I told her, and she said, go for it. Right. So
wow.
the two illustrations are in there are the same woman, just riding different bikes.
Right, right. And you know, Karen mentioned it earlier, and I don't know if it's pronounced Copic or Copic, but you prefer the Copic marker. So what is that and why?
I have one. It's sticky because I've been using it. So some, markers, if they smell. So with these ones, they're alcohol based? I can't remember now, but there's no smell to them. So you have like here, I'll go do this. I'll have there we go. Like there's the pointy end, okay,
Mm, yeah,
on one side. This is my favorite color. And then you have like a fatter end on the other side. And the cool thing is, however much pressure, I'm going to lose everybody because I'm going to get really nerdy on you now. However much pressure you put down on this tip,
uh-huh.
you can vary the shade. And then one other last nerdy thing is then you get the alcohol, just the alcohol pen, and you go over what you've colored with the marker, and it
Wow,
brings out it totally fades the color. So with that one illustration, all the little folds of her coat, I
wow.
put the color down and then I go with the alcohol and it's like quick strokes and it takes the color off but leaves a little bit.
Yeah, that is fascinating. So let's dig into the book. I'll read a little bit of a little blurb here. Spy Girls, a Jade and Sage thriller series. Jade and Sage are the sisters. So Jade and Sage Time are strong, independent, flawed sisters who get pulled into the criminal underworld of tea-toting coastal city, Victoria. When Jade is not defending criminals in court, she's running from them as she uncovers conspiracies in Victoria's legal community. Sage's street sense gets the sisters out of life-threatening situations, and don't be surprised if Sage's all-girl motorcycle gang, the Moto City Dolls, rumbles down the highway. In Spy Girls, a CIA action officer is released from prison. A chief justice is murdered, and the Law Society is scrutinizing Jade Time's conduct. Jade's life can't get much worse until she's coerced into finding an elusive double agent. Tangled in lies and political agendas, high-speed chases, and sticky bombs, can Jade outplay a dangerous Russian assassin before her own life is terminated? So we're not going to give away too much of the book because you need to read it because it's a great read. It's a big book, so let me just tell you, and we'll talk about that. But first, Joanna, do you have a favorite paragraph from the book that you would like to read to us?
Yeah, yes. So this book, the inspiration for it came together. All of you are writers, you know, it's like one little thought here, one little thought there, and then they mesh together. So one of the scenes is Jade, our heroine, is with her coworker, Norman, who's a lawyer, and they're waiting for a verdict to come in. Um, a podcaster has been charged with assault. Okay. And they're, again, we're all writers. And I remember walking to work, and one day I was just so unhappy. And I just thought, I want to see the humanity in humans. So I'll just leave you with that, and I'll start to read here. Okay, Norman's the coworker. Norman leaned toward me. No matter what happens, Jade, he said in a hushed tone, we presented the facts of the case to the best of our ability with the evidence provided. I know, Norman. It's just for once. I'd like to see the humanity in humans. Norman gestured at the gallery of nurses, a sea of Neapolitan blue and green scrubs. Look no further. I gazed at the diversified gallery, fatigued emergency responders, some with ponytails, other with glasses, and those stifling yawns. They put the lives of their patients before their own. In the center of the gallery was Coco Jin, the victim in this assault. She was the street nurse covering a shift at Victoria General Hospital when RJ and his followers had decided to protest the infringement of their rights with respect to a vaccine. Looking at Coco's 5 foot 4 inch height and slim build, one would never guess the petite blonde rode a Harley. RJ thought her an easy target, heckling her and shaking his fists. When Coco told him to leave because he was disrupting the emergency ward, RJ spat on her. And that happened in a hospital. Oh
Wow.
God,
Wow.
in my city. And I just, w- we use our writing to kind of try to get our own justice, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Now, Jade and Sage, where do they come from? I know a lot of us will create composites of several people we know. Where did you get these sisters?
Well, I kind of based them after I'm one of four sisters, like one of four daughters, and there's quite the age gap between us. I'm 14 years, my oldest sister is 14 years older than me,
Mhm.
and the next sister to me is 7 years older. And we don't always get along. We don't always get along. And, I see like Brooke Henderson is the Canadian phenom golfer, and her sister caddies for her. And I'm just like, that wouldn't happen in our house. There'd be an argument. So I just wanted to show that these sisters, the two of them, they're their very own strong individual women.
Yes.
They may not get along at times, but they pull together and support each other, and they're there for each other.
Yeah, they make a great compliment too, the way that you created their personalities.
Yeah, and they
It-
each have their own strengths and weaknesses. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So, your plot, and I described it this way to you, and you said that was, on point. But while I was reading it, that very first murder happened, and we had already met a few characters, and then we kept meeting characters along the way. And I said it's almost like a snowball. It's like the murder is a snowball, and as it rolls, it gathers people. And you find out that these characters have some role
Yeah.
in one way or another with the murder. What was it like to write that? Because you have a lot of characters and there's a lot of movement. The pacing is amazing.
Well, first I have to give a shout out to Joe Goldberg. He was an actual CIA action officer. and he read the book, and he had mentioned about the number of characters I had. And so I was looking at how I could trim the number of characters I had. Uh, I don't, when I wrote this, I didn't plot, and I have now become a plotter. Um, I had a third plot line in this, and when my editor saw it, she had said, this stops at like this third plot line stops at like chapter 10. What are you going to do with it? You either get rid of it or you got to keep going with it. Okay. So after writing this and after the edits and after the rewrites, I have become a plotter. Um, I think I've lost track of your question. I've become
Well,
a plotter.
it's the fact that, well, you addressed it because, I was going to ask, how do you organize
Yeah.
that number of characters that you have and the plots and the subplots?
Yeah.
Because it is a snowball. The story keeps growing,
Yeah.
as it goes on, and it becomes complicated.
Yeah, I don't use any like online uh
Oh, like the
application.
software, yeah, like Scrivener
Yeah,
and things.
I
Okay.
write a lot of notes. I have a little book that I scribble notes in. That was with Spy Girls, but now I have changed after that book, and I have become a plotter, and I follow like a three-act structure, but I leave some room for me to let the story also unfold, right? I'm not rigid in that plot.
Okay, so yeah, a bit of both. I hate to admit, no, I don't hate to admit it. I was kind of glad when the judge got murdered. And that's the only giveaway I'll do. No, I mean despicable. Just so I was surprised when you said this is based on a true story.
Yeah, so a lot of um human trafficking news. I saw a lot of it like when I started writing this. And again, it was just look at that comment. I remember thinking the humanity in humans. I'd walk to work. I would live 25 minutes away from work and I'd walk to work. And that's where I would think of my story going to and from work. And there was a judge in my province, what would be your state, who, when he was in court, this is all public record, street workers would appear in front of him, and either they'd get a lighter sentence, or they'd get a very light sentence. It's not like they would do any jail time. And I'm just trying to remember. And then later he would go back because in Vancouver there's an area that's called the downtown east side, which they're trying to clean up, but it's don't go there, okay? And he would go back and pick up these women who had appeared in his courtroom and abuse them. And he was found guilty. And this didn't happen in Vancouver. I don't want to say the city that it happened in.
Sure,
Um, but I saw that and I think, like I said, when you write a book, you want to see justice.
you
And
do.
and this man was put away for 7 years. And it's just like, this is not acceptable.
Yeah.
And coming from the prosecutor's office, you can tell I get quite passionate about that. Yeah.
Well, for sure. And did you pull many stories from your experience in the prosecutors and in the Office of Police Complaint in those two offices? Did you get other ideas from your time in those offices?
Yeah. And it's what got me is it's what those prosecutors, this is a job I would never do, that in nursing, what they're up against. I mean, they wear it. The police, an incident will happen. The police will write what we call as a police report or a report to Crown Counsel, send it to the Crown, the prosecutor's office, and the lawyers will decide if there's enough evidence. No, oh God, Carolyn's on here. There's a phrase, Uh, it's like likely, like substantial likelihood of conviction. God, it's been a while, right? And if they passed that test, someone was charged. And, if things went wrong, if I remember if an accused wasn't read his rights, there was a chance that statement could not be used.
Yes.
Oh, Caroline's, yeah, I'm sorry, we're having flashbacks, right? And that crown wore it. It was his name who was smeared in the paper, for being incompetent and so yeah. And with police complaints, I used to do the complaint summaries and type them up. And
Mm,
so I knew, okay, we produced an annual report. So this is after I'd left police complaints. So you can go online, the Office of the Police Complaint Commissioner, see the annual reports, see the complaint summaries. And that's how I would like mesh together a story. And before any of this went to print, I sent it to the lawyer I know who's still a prosecutor because the laws change.
yeah,
And so she would also help keep me current. Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you talked a little bit earlier about your process, and it's kind of fun to hear about everybody's process. That's why we always talk about it. What are some what part of the way that you write that you've learned over the years? What are some tips or some, I call it words of wisdom, some shortcuts, whatever, that you have when you are writing a sizable book? How do you make that work? How do you get it on the page?
Well, first, for word of wisdom, is I believe, you know, always try to learn. I always want to try to learn to be a better writer, always. And all of us here, all of us have seen how many of us have so many how to like not how to write books, but write this way or write that way or write like a screenplay, and different books I think work for different people. And it was last year where I did some research and I have it here. It has become my Bible. It's called Immersion and Emotion, the Two Pillars of Storytelling. And it's not a big book, okay?
Mhm.
And, they talk about situation versus plot. And I broke my own rule. One day I was on the ferry going to Vancouver and I started underlining and writing in the book because it was just so good and folding back pages. And one of the big takeaways I got from this book was if you start a scene or you start a chapter, your character has one emotion, has like not one emotion, but has an emotion coming into the scene. And by the end of that scene, the end of that chapter, the character should have a different emotion, so
Wow.
and that I understand that. I'm like, okay, so in a way, so that's saying something must have happened so that your character doesn't have this static emotion from beginning to end.
Oh, so do you have an example that you could remind me of from the book?
Uh,
Where the character starts with one emotion but ends the scene with another. Well, I guess any of those where there's fear.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I could take one, for example, I'm working on a romance now, and the heroine, she starts the chapter where, she's happy. She's met her best friend that she hasn't seen since school. It's like 20 years later. They're going to go to an market. She's buying stuff. She's feeling good. And then she turns and they go to like a band shell where there's a local band playing at a festival. And she sees the guy who she had this incredible crush on when she was in grade 8.
Mm,
And like she's a strong woman. Like she works on a race car team, and she just sees them and she's just like, oh my God. She's just like, oh my God. And the thing is, he's like killing it on the stage.
Oh,
And then
wow.
her friend says, come on, let's go see them backstage. And she's just like, no, I can't do this. So she's gone from happy, like we're going out, we're looking at things, we're at the market, to like, I gotta go home. And that's what she says to her, I've got to go home. And so even like those subtle differences. So something has happened to her, right?
That's right. That's right. And it keeps the movement going. Well, and that's why your pacing goes so it almost seems effortless. I want to invite everybody to put questions in the chat while we continue the conversation. Joanna's, wanting to take questions from you. Anything come to mind or anything that you want to add to the discussion? So you mentioned that you've evolved from a full pantser to a plotter, but you're not a plotter using software. So you're doing kind of a low-tech plotter. But, so what was that evolution like? Was it hard? Did you go screaming and kicking into plotting, or was it something that seemed like your logical next step?
It was the time. It's just like, oh my God, what was I thinking? Three plot lines, right? So it was the time that took to write this. And I just thought it also kind of knowing the way, the path I was going, kind of took some of the pressure off. So like I say, I use the three act structure where it's not, I don't, sometimes if they come to me, I'll write down scenes. But I'll write, let's say in the first act, what the heroine needs to discover or what she's working for. So like the best one I can do is like with this romance because it's so fresh in my mind. She wants to fix up her dad's old car. Her dad's in a care home. And so I'm writing what needs to be done, what her goal is. She wants to enter this race. She needs a race car driver. Okay. And I'll do that while I've been reading this book. And as
Uh,
I'm reading this book, a scene will come to me, and I'm like, you got to write that down. So I'm scribbling it down. And what I'm trying to do is from writing three thrillers, is I'm trying to, at the end of each chapter, even in the romance, leave them hanging. Okay, yeah, they're the heroine and the hero aren't going to get together right away after the first chapter. No, I want to keep you wondering, right?
yeah. Keep us turning, keep us turning. Well,
Yeah.
I think Rick has a couple of questions for you.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah, Rick?
I see one about the motors. I can do the motorcycles and race
Yeah.
cars. I see that one. Um,
Yes. Okay. So it says, tell us about your interest in motorcycles and race cars.
yeah. So, like I said, after about 30 years, I started creating art. And a lady I know who has since passed, she had so much faith in me. She asked me to, for her husband's birthday, illustrate a sprint car. And I never knew what a sprint car was. They're kind of like this, and they got these wings on them. And so I said, sure, and she said she'd pay me. And I thought, okay, I'm just trying to start a art career here. And what I found was I loved making the fat tire. Okay. And I thought, this is cool. This is really cool. I liked drawing the numbers on the race car. And then I did a few like sports cars, a Porsche, a Bugatti. And then I saw a motorcycle and I thought, I want to illustrate that. It was parked in Victoria. And what I liked was how the light was shining on the gas tank. This red gas tank looked like it had like a prism of colors starting with purple. And I was just like, oh, look at the colors on that. That's going to be cool. And again, I'm nerding out on you, but that's why I liked illustrating cars and motorcycles. And when I lived in Victoria, it was like so many people painted and worked with watercolors. And I remember thinking, no one is going to know about me because I do bikes and cars, right?
That's, yeah, there's a few more there. Rick, are you with us? Rick or Chris? Either one, you guys want to give us some questions?
I am here. We got knocked out for a little bit. Did everyone else get knocked out?
Oh, wow.
I mean, I've got several questions, so I don't know if some of them were picked up. I think all the whole chat's here, but yeah, no, yeah, I just got back online.
Oh,
Karen, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Glad you got back.
Yeah,
yeah, glad you got back. Can you see the chat, Rick, or is it?
yeah. The first question I have is, do you have illustrations in all your books? You may have already answered that. I may have missed some of these, so.
Yeah, and she answered about the motorcycles and the race cars. So we're down to Catherine B's question.
Okay. Big question for me, it always bothers me, is why did you decide to write a romance?
Okay. I'm going to be completely honest, and that was world events. Okay. World events. And here I am. I'm the VP of members for Sisters in Crime Canada West. And I just thought I couldn't write something that involved scheming or plotting or someone being killed. I can't do it. Like personally, I thought I can't do it. I will not write. I can't do it. And for my own mental health, I thought, I want to write something happy. Okay. I want to write something where people, they come together. Of course, in a romance, they're going to fall apart. Something's going to happen, but I want a happy ending. And the funny thing was when I was at my critique partner again, Carol Ann Paputsas. Hi, Carol Ann. I remember I'd send her a chapter and she'd send me a chapter and she goes, oh, this character, she sounds like she's got something up her sleeve. She's going to do something. I'm like, this is romance. No dead bodies, no assault, no scheming.
No romance suspense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, how do you communicate internal emotions, especially fear in the spy girl?
Oh, wow. It was so fear, like in Spy Girls. I would try to think of how put myself in that character's position. Okay. Um, there's a nasty scene involving Jade on a boat. And I remember when I was writing it, I thought, okay, if you were here and I grabbed my own hand and I thought, and this something's going to happen. What is your physical reaction going to be? What are you going to do? And that was that. I remember doing and just watching like my physical being, right? So I grabbed my hand and because I know what happens, I'm pushing back, right? So I thought, okay, you've got to write this, and then later there's a scene which is actually a nice scene where she's cleaning up in like a washroom in a mall and she's starting to lose it because just let's say it's something's starting to bleed again and she's like being strong but now I find that with humans you can be strong when you need to be, but then when you step back that's when you kind of go, you lose it.
There we go, yeah.
And I remember once at police complaints where something had gone wrong and I was being strong. And then it was an ex-cop came up to me and he said, "Are you okay?" And it was his kindness that made me just break down, right? And I thought, okay, so Jade's in the washroom and nurse comes along and basically that, yeah, I think the nurse says to her, "Are you all right?" And that's when Jade just goes, oh, right, because of what she's gone through. Yeah.
I just want to add that I put all your social media contacts or your links up in the, as well as your website in the chat for anyone that wants to get in touch with you, if that's okay. And a
Okay.
copy of a cover of your book there. This is an art question. Do you freehand your lines or do you use a ruler or other edges?
Oh, I use a ruler. I can't draw a straight line. If you're talking about art,
Yeah, I think we're in the art now.
cannot draw a straight line. I have what's, I use a ruler and I had, my husband went and got me. It was very sweet. It was the first commission. I never knew about these, but they're called, seriously, this is what they're called, French curves.
Oh, yeah.
And they're bits of plastic that have like curves and it's what like is it Chip Fuse? Chip Fuse, who
Mhm.
yeah.
Car
If
designer. Yeah.
yeah, if you see him do his illustrations, he'll sometimes pull out French curves and they're these pieces of plastic that just are rounded here or rounded there and yeah, that's what helps me with the motorcycles. And yeah, and if I have a question, I'll show it to my husband and he'll be like, "No," right? Tire doesn't look like that. You missed, you know, and I'm like, yes, yeah. So yeah.
Nice.
Did the two main characters in Spy Girls do something that surprised you?
It was it I'm thinking back to the unraveling, the first book. And I remember, you know, when you're writing and you just it comes to you and you just think, go with it, right?
Mhm.
And I remember Jade was running away from a bad guy and her sister Sage. I thought, okay, I didn't want the typical hero saves the heroine.
Yeah.
And I remember Jade is like crawling up a ditch and she looks down the road and I thought, okay, who's coming to help her? And I thought, it's her sister. And her sister's on a bike. And then I saw it and I thought, okay, her sister's coming down the center. And then behind her sister, the motorcycle gang fans out, right? And I thought, okay, orange, like you could have like an orange sunset, right? And so then what Jade sees, she sees the V and it's being led by her sister, and she knows her sister's coming to get her, and she knows she's okay, I'm gonna be okay, right?
Yeah.
So that was a surprise, and I still remember that one, and then it's like, right?
You know, you really put strong women in that story. I mean, from the assassin to the heroine. I mean, the women are something else in the book. And is that something you always do, or just for Spy Girls and the other parts of the series? Is that a signature throughout the series? These strong women.
I strong in certain ways because
Yes.
I know in Spy Girls the character in the beginning who's going to see her father in jail.
Yeah.
She's a tough lady.
Yeah, she's a little scary.
Yeah. But she has her vulnerable side because you know, at one point, I think in the beginning, you know, basically you find out she goes and for, you know, to please her father, she goes out to the cemetery where his sister had died. And I think she steals a bouquet of flowers. She steals a bouquet of flowers from a stand and she doesn't pay for it. And this lady's a lawyer, you know, she just swipes the flowers, puts them in the jag, goes to the cemetery, sees her aunt, goes, drops the flowers. And the reason why she's acting like that is because she just wants her dad's acceptance. She just wants him to see her, right? Where her dad is just using her for what he can get out of her, right?
Yeah. Cold-blooded guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you still write short stories?
Yeah, actually. Um, so here's the thing. I haven't written one for a while. And then the Sisters in Crime Canada West, they are open. They are accepting entries. I think the deadline is September 15th for an anthology. And I had written one involving uh like a ghost and my heroine is possibly a witch, but she's not really. She's gifted. And I hadn't done anything with it. And then I was talking with Carol Ann, and we were talking about her short story. And I thought, okay, I'm going to dig mine out. And what I realized was they said the word limit was 6,000. And I looked at the story and I thought, okay, it's 3,500. It doesn't mean it has to be 6,000 if I can make this
Yeah.
story work with what I've got here. Why am I trying to make it bigger, right? It doesn't have to be bigger, you know? So yeah, that one was inspired by a forest fire a couple of years back on the mainland. And the creepy thing about the whole forest fire was the forest fire, it burned and burned and burned. And then I guess wind, I don't have the facts straight, but the wind had caught the flames and took the flames over a cemetery. So the cemetery didn't get burned. But so I'm like, that's creepy. Yeah.
Now, do you write every day? Sometimes I feel guilty if I don't get it in. So are you 1,000 words, 2,000 words a day, or how do you pace yourself to make sure you get it done?
I write in the morning, and I'm one of these people who, if 3 days go by and I haven't done any writing, I have a term up here where I say I'm going a little squirrely because I haven't done any writing. Okay. And I need to get some writing done or else my world is going to fall apart. Right. So I know it sounds really over dramatic, but I do. I retired from the government and I really try to make it so that every morning I sit in this office and I do at least an hour, an hour and a half of writing. Yeah.
Karen
You
wrote,
might,
writing is therapy.
yeah, yeah. You mind telling us a little bit about your podcast?
Well, sadly, I've had to shut it down.
Oh,
Yeah, it was a hard decision. After 5 years, it was a hard
wow.
decision. And it's just I've taken on becoming the VP of members for Sisters in Crime Canada West. And I put my hand up and I'm now the BC rep for the Crime Writers of Canada.
Wow.
And I still want to write, you know. So I'm like, okay, something needs.
Yeah, podcasts are a lot of work.
And I just thought you cannot do it all, right? And I do this to myself all my life, my entire life. I take on way too much, and then I'm like, "Ugh, what have I done? So I'm trying to learn.
Well, I meant to say thank you for your service with Sisters in Crime. When, someone is volunteering at that level, we always want to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for helping the cause,
And then also thanks for reading so many of the Farm to Fowl play stories on your podcast.
That was a blast. That was so much fun.
They were good. They have some good ones there.
And there are times I think, "Oh, I'd like to get back to it," but I'm just like, don't do it. You're coping, you're comfortable. Don't do it, right? Like it's just, yeah.
You'll know when the time is right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Does anyone else have a comment or a question that, they want to add to this great visit? This has been really wonderful. It's so interesting, your approach and just the way that you pull it off. Oh, here's one from Dover.
How do you balance?
How do you balance art and writing?
Okay. What I do is in the morning I'll write, and in the afternoon I'll do art.
Oh,
But it depends. Like I entered Harlequin has a mentorship program, and I entered that, and they contacted me and they said, "We want to see your manuscript." So I thought, okay. And they gave me a deadline date. So I had to get them the full manuscript by, I think it was August 1st. So depending on if there's a deadline date, I remember closer to that time, I don't know, about 4 weeks out from August 1st, I stopped all art. And it's almost like hands on deck, full out writing. The book was written, but I wanted to do rewrites. I thought I can't send this out first draft. I have to do rewrites. And so then I didn't do any art. And my art desk is over there, and I'd be sitting there and I'd be like, you need to work on this, right? And yeah, so it depends if there's a deadline involved. Like I want to enter this short story anthology. You can check it out, Sisters in Crime Canada West. And I'm probably not going to be doing any art for a little while because I've got to work on this short story, right?
yeah.
So
Joanna, did you mention whether or not you do your own covers or your art in your books?
I the illustrations in Spy Girls, yeah, I did those. I'm trying to remember. I don't in Dealer's Child, there are a few illustrations. Um, but they're in black and white because that way it didn't, because they're, you print them through Amazon, right? And I remember the person who was the inspiration for Valentina, she, well, the crazy thing that happened when you base a character off a real person is, so I had her as Valentina, this strong woman, you know. It's got a few things like scheming. She's not necessarily a nice person. And the real person, I remember one day she posted on Instagram how for Mother's Day she made all these beautiful cookies and biscuits for her mom. And I saw her post and I thought, no, Valentina would not do that, right? And I thought, geez, this is why you're never supposed to base your character on a real person. Because I thought, no, you're going again. Valentina would never do that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else from anyone? We're running up on near the top of the hour. We're getting toward the end here. Anyone want to have a question or comment? Oh, I can't see that one. Let's see. Ah,
Is every character.
does every character have a bit of you in it?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Especially the women. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I tell you something, you guys, Spy Girls is the movement, everything. I mean, don't be intimidated by the characters and the plots that involve the CIA and judges and all the layers of corruption and everything, because it really moves. It is an enjoyable read.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you.
And justice is done.
Myra, I got a question for you. Did you find it honestly difficult to read in terms of a totally different legal system in a totally different country?
Oh no,
Okay.
no. Um, you know, I I don't know. I just, I just stay open and I accept, but that part didn't really do, but I follow a lot of British mysteries as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. You too, Rick? Is it?
Yeah, I watched a lot of the, Acorn and BritBox, so I get a lot of the British stuff. I'm assuming it's, the Crown, everything's pretty much the same, the Crown Prosecutor, CPS and all that, so, yeah.
Exactly. And the terminology can be
Yeah.
different, but
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Do they
No,
work?
we don't have to wear wigs in Canada.
I just saw that one.
Yeah. And the other thing you don't do, and I did this the very first day I walked into a courtroom. I was very young and I was inexperienced. We do, when we walk into a courtroom, need to bow at the judge.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
because I had to deliver files to the Crown. And I remember I was so nervous that when I walked back out and went to turn to bow, I curtsied. I remember the court clerk was like looking at me like, what are you doing? Right? And I just beelined out of there after I
a
did
little over the top. That's funny.
that.
Well, thanks to everyone. Karen, are you gonna take us home?
Yeah. Yeah,
Clean up
thank
hitter.
you. Thank you, everyone. And thank you so much, Joanna, for agreeing to be interviewed by our wonderful Myra. She always makes it easy. Wasn't it easy, Joanna?
It was. I mean,
Good.
stuff came out of me that.
Oh, good, good. That's part of the fun. So thanks everyone for attending tonight, and we will see you at our next event, hopefully. Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Joanna.
Thank you.